All right, like I said in the last video, my next project for the old Cadillac is the rear differential. Specifically, I think my problem relies in the pinion housing, but I'm not entirely sure, but a little more investigation is required. The first thing I notice here is that the seal between the pinion housing and the differential is weeping. I've got some wetness right here. There's no wetness on the diff cover itself, however. There's no carrier bearings on this car. Some cars with long drive shafts do have them, but this one does not. This has got one of those double jointed cardone joint. I think that's the proper word for it. I had this drive shaft completely redone here a few years ago, rebalanced and everything at a nice shop downtown Birmingham, and it is not an issue. So let me give you the breakdown on the vibration in this old Cadillac. Now, actually immediately after I bought the car in 2016, I was driving home and I had to keep the speed down to about 60 because it was immediately apparent after I got onto the highway as I was driving home that there was a vibration of some sort. But typically, a differential vibration, you can usually tell where it's coming from. On this car, it is truly unbelievable. The vibration emanates through the entire body of the car. So just to give you a little rundown on what I did. Back in 2016, I tore into the front end a little bit, not a whole lot, replaced some bearings, thinking, well, maybe it's a bearing issue. I actually replaced the rear bearings, the rear wheel bearings, thinking they might be the issue. Nope. And back then, I also, I think this was 2017, I rebuilt the rear end as well. So the rear end's got all new rubber in it, new shocks and everything. So the rear end it's good to go. That's the reason why I didn't touch it when I was doing the front end rebuild on this Cadillac. So where does that leave us? We have a vibration at speeds starting above around 45, and where they really start to rear their head is when you're going up a slight hill and you just give it a little bit of moderate throttle to stay the same speed or maybe accelerate up a hill. The torque applied to this rear end just really exposes the issue, and you hear this drone that sort of oscillates, like that. But it only occurs under certain circumstances, notably at highway speeds. And if you're doing 65 and you nail it to pass somebody, it gets really loud then. So a few years ago, I bought a tool specifically designed to find noises in your car. And let's take a look at that next. All right, so we have the Steelman Wireless ChassisEar. If you've never seen one of these things, it's pretty cool. So found this on Amazon a few years ago, and I used it once to diagnose the problematic noise from my Cadillac. And I already know where the sound is coming from. At least I think I do. So really, it remains to be seen. That's the reason why I want to go back through this whole process once again. So here's what we have. Got a little instruction book. And we have some notes that come with it for the technician. All right, so you have a base station and you have 4 listening devices. So let's take a look at the base station first. This you keep in the car with you on a test drive. So that will sit on the seat next to you. And you have a pair of earbuds. They plug in right here. We have the listening devices, 1, 2, 3, 4. These numbers on here, 1, 2, 3, 4, are analogous to the numbers on the selector, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you could have more. You could have 5 and 6 if you wanted. Now you have a little package of connectors, like little battery charger doohickeys, and these plug into the listening devices. Wireless detectors. I don't know what you call them. Basically, they detect vibrations. So this plugs in here. You turn it on. And you take this end and you clip it onto some piece of metal in your car where you suspect a noise or a problematic noise is being made. And the way you attach this to the car is with Velcro straps that they give you. And you can put these anywhere you want, underneath your car, in your engine bay, wherever you need to, wherever you suspect that there's a noise. So now that you've got these things positioned around the car, you turn them all on and you turn on the base station. This shows you your signal, which there's nothing connected to it, so it's just basically that's an error mode because there's nothing connected to it. And you can change from each one like this. So let's just turn number 1 on. There we go. So let's do a little bench test here. Now let's say I'm just tapping this on the case here. I think you get the point, right? So if you've got a vibration in the car somewhere, this thing, you'll be able to hear it. You'll be able to hear the vibration and see the oscillations on the signal indicator. So this is the tool that we're going to use to identify the source of our vibration in the old Cadillac. So up next, I'm going to go ahead and place these strategically around the underside of the Cadillac. All right, here's our setup, folks. I've got the sensors tie wrapped to the rear of the car, the axle and differential and whatnot. And we have number 1 right here. And he's going to be right here on the passenger side of the axle. Which one is this? This must be number 2 up here. Same place except for the driver's side. Number 3 right here is going to be right here on the pinion housing. This number 4 here is going to be on the rear of the differential itself. So we're going to ride down the road, and I believe we might be able to get the Rode wireless microphone connected up to this Steelman ChassisEar in such a way that you will be able to hear, along with me, the noises from each one of these sensors. So up next, let's take a little test drive. All right, we're in the car. We've got the Steelman out, and I've got the headphones on, and I've got one of the wireless microphones taped to one side of the headphones for this Steelman device. And I got the other earphone in my ears. Number 1 is on the passenger axle. Number 2 is on the driver's axle. Number 3 is on the pinion, actually on the very bottom of the pinion housing, directly, just very, very near where the drive shaft spins. And then number 4 is on the differential cover itself. So let's go ahead and turn this thing on. There's going to be some static, so it's going to be pretty noisy for you guys. So keep that in mind. You know, with if you're listening on earbuds or your computer or whatever, you're going to hear a lot of. It's going to be noisy. So just you'll get over it though. I could be mistaken. All right. So there's number 1. That's the passenger axle. And you're going to hear just standard. I don't hear anything bad there. To me, that's just the sound of the axle. It's kind of clean and metallic, and it's probably mostly the sound of the the grease and the bearings and the oil and stuff flying around in the axle. Let's move over to number 2, which is the driver's side. So the 1 and 2 are actually connected to the flange that mounts the trailing arm. That was the best place I could find to connect it. So it's not actually on the very end where the bearings are. That one sounds a little different. I think number 2 is having a little bit of a problem with its signal. Similar sound. I don't really hear anything out of the ordinary there. So I'm slowing down, you can hear it slowing down, and you can hear that one slowing down. I think number 2 is the signal's just not real good. I think a better placement. You got to be careful about where you place them because, the signal it's got to reach the base station, right? So number 3, it's quiet. That's on the bottom of the pinion. Number 4 is on the diff. So, all right, let's wait. Woo! All right, sitting at a red light. We'll be right back. All right, we're on the move again. We're doing 35. That is the bottom of the pinion housing. This is really the one I want to concentrate on, so I'm going to leave it here for a while. And I'm actually about 2 or 3 miles away from the interstate, so it's kind of hard for me to get up to highway speeds. Getting on a back road here. Doing 50 now. All right, now my vibration is starting to come in. I can feel it in the car. So we're going to speed up here on the straightaway. I've got the clip hanging straight down below the car, so the wind pressure may be pressing it against something, pressing it against the housing. I wish it would quit cutting in and out. That's fantastic. All right, let's go ahead and listen to the differential cover. All right, I pulled over into a parking lot because I was like, what is this noise? I'm sitting here wondering what is going on with this thing. So we're near a local airport. I think that's some sort of timing beacon or something. There's some kind of RF interference around here, and it's interfering with these transmitters. Go figure. And number one is like off the hook. Let me pull up into a parking space in this here. I'm in a parking lot. Let me pull over and crawl underneath there and check number one. All right, I pulled over and did some repositioning, and I got number three positioned onto a bolt on the outside of the pinion housing, and that seems to be a pretty. Ooh, it doesn't like turning. Holy cow! Come on, give me a break. Gee whiz. Must be the wire kind of flying around in the wind. It may not like that. All right, we're gonna pull onto the on-ramp onto the interstate here gradually. We're gonna listen to number three on the pinion housing. 35. $50. Taking it easy. And the whole car is vibrating now. It sucks, actually. All right. I think when that wire flies around, it kind of interferes with the connection. Yeah, I think that's what's going on. I'm gonna slow down. Keep it about 55. No reason to get going fast. I'm gonna give it a little extra fuel here. The whole car is vibrating. I think I'm gonna have to tie that wire down more readily to keep it from flying around. All right, let's move over to the differential cover. Doing 61 or so. I'm gonna let off the gas. I'm not on the gas. Now I am. On a flat grade. Now I'm gonna give it a little gas. I'm doing about 64. We'll give it a little fuel. Speeding up to 70. Whole car is vibrating. I'll let off the gas. Let's switch over to the end of the axle. Number one is the passenger side. It's nice and quiet. We're doing 55. I'm in the exit ramp getting off the interstate. And number two, I think when it's dead quiet like that, that means the connector is simply just not on anything. I think the wire has come out. The connection's bad. The connection is a little loose on the wireless remote. So I'm going to turn around here. All right, you want to hear what your drum brakes sound like? All right, I'm on the driver's side axle. I'm just letting off the brake and then pressing it again. Let off. Let off and press. Nice drum brakes. Hey, I wonder if we can do the passenger side. That one's not as noisy. Maybe the driver's side drum brake is a little bit tighter, but who knows. That pinion housing is it's a lot noisier than the diff cover, even at low speed. mean, this is, you know, that was 10 miles an hour. Trying to find a place to turn. I'm in a parking lot right now, so. All right, one thing I haven't checked on this old car is the flex plate. Had the transmission rebuilt for giggles back in, I think it was 2017, but to be honest with you, I can't recall if they put a new flex plate on it or not. I would think they would have, but it's just something to check. So let's give it a shot, shall we? All right, so I got the car on the lift, not very high, got a couple of feet off the ground. And we're gonna fire this thing up. I have the inspection cover removed. On this car, you have to move the starter out of the way first and then reattach it to get the inspection plate off. Anyway, here we go. Well, there you go. How about that? Sometimes I confuse myself in ways that I couldn't imagine going into a project. So I started off wanting to make a video with the Steelman Wireless ChassisEar. And I ended up leading myself into a different direction. So maybe the ChassisEar was helpful in ways that I was not able to foresee going into the project. Quite often that, you know, that's the case, right? You go into something and you think, I'm going to use this tool for this specific purpose because I know exactly what I'm doing, but you don't. And basically what that does is it makes you think more readily about things. And then you think to yourself, well, maybe it's this over here that I haven't even considered in the past. So I think that's where I stand right now, to be honest with you. So the vibration in the car that you heard in the video, you probably saw the text down below, and you can hear that slow, droning, oscillating vibration, that wah, wah sound. That's what I'm talking about. So I sort of took a break from this car back in 2019 to work on a little more famous vehicle, the one sitting over to my right, the 126, which I've gotten into a fantastic drivable daily driver state, and it's a fantastic car. It's my daily driver. I love it. I've still got a few things to do on it still, but that's more to come on that. So I went into this video today with the wireless ChassisEar thinking that I already knew where the vibration was coming from, namely the pinion housing. And the reason I say that is because about 3 years ago, I used the ChassisEar and I actually heard the vibration come through one of the listening devices that was connected to the pinion housing. I heard it very faintly, but the oscillations were coming through and I was able to recreate it, and I thought to myself, aha, that must be where the problem is. It must be in the pinion housing. However, after this most recent troubleshooting session, I'm not so sure now, because I was unable to get that oscillating vibration to be heard through any of those chassis ears underneath on the rear end of the car. I just could not recreate it. And on my way back to the house, I turned everything off and I was just thinking, and I'm like, what else is turning? You know, what could it be? You know, you get the engine, you get the transmission, the drive shaft. The drive shaft's been balanced. We've already listened to the differential. What else? The flex plate. The flex plate? And I'm sitting here thinking, can flex plates warp? And I'm like, yeah, sure they can. They can crack. Why wouldn't they be able to warp? So I got back to the house and I raised the vehicle a little bit, put the camera underneath there, and I had to take the inspection cover off. This guy right here. Oh, and by the way, you might note in the video that rear main seal, dry as a bone. How about that? I was pretty happy about that. So anyway, we fired up the engine, and in the video, you can see the flex plate wobble a little bit. Now, it's not much, but it's not supposed to wobble any. I mean, it's supposed to be dead on. I'm not saying the flex plate is the source of the vibration, the droning vibration. But I highly suspect that it is. Now, I have two paths I could go down. I could dive into the differential and take it apart and go down that path and see if I find anything. Or I could dive into the flex plate, which requires removing the transmission or unbolting it and sliding it back some. I think taking the transmission loose and putting a new flex plate on is probably an easier job than rebuilding the rear differential and or pinion bearings. I think that's the direction I'm going to go next. I believe I'm going to go ahead and order a flex plate, and we're going to pull the transmission away. We're going to pull that old one out of there, put a new one in, give it a test drive, and see what happens. If it's still there, we know the problem's probably in the differential. If it's not there, boom, we finally fixed it. Either way, this problem has to be resolved because the car is basically undrivable on the highway. All right, folks, that's all for this little vlog video. I just wanted to lay this plan out for you guys to let you know what's coming up in the near future. And I wanted to get this video out before the big Talladega race this weekend because we are not working on any cars this weekend. We're out to have a little bit of fun. So you guys take it easy. So don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And if you'd like to be notified whenever I release a new video, don't forget to click that little bell down below. You guys have a good one. And remember to enjoy driving your classic Cadillac. And hopefully yours doesn't vibrate like mine does.